Here is Vinta Julio, a turquoise ink. Let's jump straight to the end with my opinion on this ink.
The paper I'm using here is a Maruman Mnemosyne Notebook.
This might be a light blue, I'm not exactly sure, but what I do know is that it is a shimmer ink and that it is horrific. This feels like a failed batch that they just dumped some shimmer in, but not really committing and putting a bunch of shimmer, just some, because it's a failed batch. That's my guess.
All of the writing samples are done with a Platinum 3776 with a soft fine nib that writes rather dry, a Hero 7035 with a fine nib that writes wet, a Visconti Van Gogh with a medium nib and an average flow, a Lamy All-Star with a broad nib that writes average.
The pen for today is a Mnemosyne Fission.
Now that we know my opinion on this ink, let's see how I got there with the first writing sample done on Clairfontaine.
Looking at the soft, fine nib, we can, well, barely see it. If it wasn't for the fact that this had some shimmer, there'd be almost nothing really to see. This is bad. I'm assuming that there's no feather, and I'm assuming that there's no spread. We can see that there is some shading going on because it looks like there's some marks on the paper, and I'm really hoping it comes through much better on camera than it is in person, because to read it in person, I have to hold it at an angle on the light to see some of the shimmer, because no. Looking at the wet fine nib, it is a whole lot darker than it was with the soft fine, and thankfully so, because we can read this. Now, it does not feather and it does not spread. It does have some shading. Yes, you do get to see the shimmer, not just in the shaded portions, but in a majority of the writing. It really does come through fairly spread out, not overdone on the shimmer. That's how I'll put it, not overdone, but present. It's there, it's present, it's not a ton. We can see that it does shade, and if you look at deafened on the first, I'm skipping, I can't do this, this is bad. Looking at the medium nib, if you can see it, it is lighter than it was with the extra fine, about the same tone that we had with the soft fine, and we're assuming it's, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is a car wreck. Looking at the broad nib, we're looking at this. I don't want to describe what's going on because I don't want to just bash this entirely. So I only rambled for a moment so that you can see some of what I'm seeing and experience this for yourself for all its glory. But hey, there's some good news when you look at the back of the page. There's no bleeding and no ghosting.
Like most inks, this one comes in a bottle. This is how the Pilot Custom 823 fits. And here is the Pelican M1000. Here is the ink level when you can no longer fill a Lamy Safari. There's approximately 5 milliliters of ink left. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is immediately put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. The one on the right, marked with a D, is let dry for 10 minutes before putting into water. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. The highlighter is on the top left, pen flush is on the top right, 1/3 bleach solution is on the bottom left, and water is on the bottom right. With over 1,000 inks reviewed, let's take a look at some color comparables.
Here is Robert Oster Turquoise. Here is Roherinklinger Verdigris.
Here is Sailor California.
Here is Scribo Blue Capri. While it's nice to see ink in the same color family, I prefer to see ink to complement the color on the page.
Here is Jeherban Blue Myocytosis.
Here is Sailor Studio 873.
Here is Diamine Maroon. Here is Pilot 100th Anniversary Yellow.
So what nib and pen do I think are going to give the best writing experience with this ink?
The paper I'm using here is yellow Rhodia paper.
Let's make this short to escape this review. The only way here is with a gusher of a pen. Otherwise, it is just unusable.
I hope you got something out of this video, and thanks for watching. I want to let you know that the best way you can support this or any channel is to let retailers know where you heard of something if you go to buy.